Being here. I'd like to welcome everyone for being here as well. I'll meeting to order to excuse Commissioner Elmer. He's not here tonight. And that will bring us to agenda item number 2, which is consent or approval of the Planning Commission minutes of January 10th, 2024. I hope you all got an opportunity to read through those. Have any questions, corrections, or any motion?
A motion that we approve our planning commission meeting minutes for January 10th, 2024.
Motion, do I have a second?
Also,
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Brings us to agenda item number 3. So, hearing. To take the comments for and or against Harrisville Ordinance 551, which is a cluster development plan for property located at approximately 265 Larsen Lane. Let's review the few rules before we get started. Public hearing is an opportunity for us to hear your opinion, your thoughts. It's not a discussion, so we're here to listen, not to have a question and answer session necessarily, but answers may be provided, but may not be provided within this meeting. Please state your name clearly, speak to the microphone. We're going to have 3 minutes. I think there's a timer over there. Lose track of time. Don't be keeping track of those 3 minutes. Please be respectful, no shouting. Fingers. If you're disorderly, you can't anticipate that. But should we have an introduction to this before we open? Great. We need to open that first.
Commissioner's preference, if you'd like me to.
Let's hear the introduction.
So the history on this is that the city received an application in November 2023. Consider a proposed development for property located at approximately 265 Larsen. So we put the parcel numbers right there. The application for mixed-use infill overlay map received recommendation from this body at the January 10th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. The developer requested the application be considered for a cluster development plan under Title 11, Chapter 16 of the Harrisville Municipal Code. So at this time, we're here to take all comments on this plan.
Thank you. Open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing regarding ordinance 551.
second.
It's the opportunity for anyone to come up and state their opinion for or against ordinance 551, cluster development. Please come forward, state your name, share your thoughts. We're here to listen.
Hello, it's Madeline Haas. I'm at 245 Larsen Lane, Harrisville. My father, Greg Montgomery, was not able to be here today, but I know he gave a copy to all of you with a whole bunch of things he outlined. So I just kind of want to highlight those and reiterate his voice. Make sure you guys kind of read that and looked over it. One of the biggest things for me and my whole extended family too is our ditch and our water rights that we have. We want to make sure those are protected and taken care of. As he talked about in here, I think it's the middle of lot 6 and 11 is where the ditch runs right through. And then the ditch all the way to my house, 245 Larsen Lane, I believe it's on that side of the fence, is on not our side of the fence. So we want to make sure that's taken care of and still get water to our house because that's our water supply. So those are the huge things that we want to make sure. And if there's any jots in it, we need to make sure we have cleanouts to those as well. The big thing he wants is just to have you read over this and to table it for right now until we see a plan that has these things changed on it as well. I know my family's gonna talk a little bit more about some of the other things, but that's a big one for us, along with on his second page. See. There's another drain that leads right through our backyard. And so when we built, we had to put in a pipe to keep it draining all the way through to my dad's property, and then it goes out to whatever. And right now, the house to the east of us is just flooded because they kind of got rid of that ditch a little bit. And so there is just pooling water there because our ditch is now no longer there. So that's something that we want to make sure, and for your sake too, is that the houses are taken care of there and there's no flooding and problems. And that is a ditch that should be existent still because it just pulls up right there and needs to be drained out. So those are the two things for us. We know that this is gonna go through. We're great with it. We just want to make sure that our rights and things are protected on this as well. So we just say, we hope that you table this for until we get a better vision of all the things that we need to see. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shannon Rich. I'm at 242 East 700 North. And I kind of just going along with the whole irrigation thing too. Problems that we had last time with development to the west of us. I took pictures, I don't have them right here, but while that was going on, so we just want to make sure that we are taking care of it as the project is going on, because it will be going on during the summer, and we need, that's the water that we use, that's our only water. I don't have sprinklers. Some people do, but most of us, we have it just for the irrigation. So, but anyway, with the development to the west of us, I took pictures, and when we flooded, they had gotten rid of the ditch and it was going right up to the houses. Right up to the houses there, and so we just want to make sure that we're taking care of, because it can be an issue, and we don't want to cause damage to those houses, but it's like, oh, we didn't do anything, it's they changed the pattern of everything. But so that's a big concern. I wouldn't say that we're complete with the plan, but we know that something's happening and change is happening, and it happens everywhere. So yeah, so just the concern of the water again. I know that with the development over here on 89, that they had easements put in, and they have like walkways to different head gates and stuff built in, so I think that needs to be taken a look at, and I just didn't see that on any of the plan for this at all, so we just want to make sure that that's taken care of. Thanks.
I feel like we should get like flyer miles or something for speaking, but my name is Connor Phil. I'm at 238 East 700 North. So my house is the house that backs right up to the back of this Phil's property. So I feel like we're the ones with the greatest impact on the city plan, and I'm not well versed in it. I read Greg's email as well. But city wants to minimize impact of development on current residents, and I feel like we're kind of the nail on the head, so it's hitting me the most. So if I understand right, with the size of the lots, the proposals of only 30 homes, plus the levels, that's 31. Greg shall know that he feels like there is be an adjustment there, and I agree. A question that I have that wasn't clear on what I saw on the line is that Hammerhead Road, that's what you call it, but not a cul-de-sac, what they did to the rest of us, but it just deadens right to the back of the west side. It's unclear to me whether or not that's right up in my backyard, because it looks like it's been annotated or that my house isn't in the correct place on that, so I'd love to see what the roll plan is in regards to the impact. of my home. Like it's been said before, we know something's coming and can't stop it, right? But I wonder why the city would approve a hammerhead versus a cul-de-sac when they would approve that on the west side, but you guys can discuss that, but as far as impact to me, I guess I wouldn't mind a hammerhead right up to my backyard. I'd rather have a road there that dead ends than backyard neighbors with you guys looking at my kitchen window from your kitchen window. You know what I mean? That would be a little more really because you like our privacy. So my opinion is if the road has to end right at my property, I would prefer that over somebody's backyard. And if it's somebody's side to my backyard, we can as well. Another thought is the development happened to the west. But like we weren't taken care of, as was mentioned before, trees were cut down. They wouldn't. I don't believe that any trees would be considered. I think the trees maybe are, but if there is development there, I would love to see the city put something in place for our privacy. And also, there's a retention pond, I think, on the plan that's more on the east side. I would maybe consider it a positive thing for that to be right against my property as well. Because we want our space, we love our home. Let's see, so concrete wall maybe, or something to give us some privacy and please keep the trees there. That's something that can't be easily replaced because it takes decades for trees to build on. So, and then the water rights too, that's of course consideration. So just be mindful. There needs to be some changes to for it to be worthy of approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joshua Haas. The item I would like to address that Greg talks about. So I'm at 245 East Larsen Lane. Right on Larsen Lane, there's, for the subdivision, there's a proposed inlet road from Larsen Lane. One of the things, the development is planning on doing a corner house just east of me, in between that inlet of the road. And the property size is pretty small. I think there's something like if there's the 20-foot setback in front, you have a 30 to 40-foot house, and in the backyard is about 10 feet. Just wondering, with that house going there and the small size, how it's going to be accommodated to that lot, wanting that kind of outlined a little bit more. On top of that, there's a unique situation. I don't know if you've seen my house. Back when we did Larsen Lane, we had a lot of fill brought in so that we could just drive into our property from Larsen Lane, not having to go downhill. So the house just east of us, you have to come in and you come in pretty far going down. So that's where the road is proposed. The question and the thing that I would like to see addressed on the development plan is how that transition is going to happen. So how that house is going to be situated with the difference in elevation from my house, from the road going down here, there. And I think that's a potential problem that we can see in development that I think in the early stages, getting that addressed would be best. So, and of course, as everyone talked about, the number one is that, right, irrigation at water shares. It's the only thing that I'll be able to use to water my lawn for when we get that in. But I need that water to be flowing. And with what's shown in this development, it's going to 2 properties, 2 houses, what easements and things are gonna be outlined so that my water rights are protected, so I can get that water the yard, get access to that. So just wanting that outlined in there as well. Again, postpone it for now so we can get that outlined and clearly protect some of these things, so.
Did you?
Public hearing unless someone wants to step up. Nobody here. No one else wants to step up. I think we'll take a motion to close the public hearing. Any other motion to close the public hearing?
All motion to close the public hearing.
If I second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That takes us to item number 4. And first here. And or which is discussion, action recommended to recommend ordinance 551, an ordinance adopting cluster development plan for property located at approximately 265 Larsen Lane, based upon an application for review. So we've had a public hearing, had a lot of comments about water rights and ditches, and the hundreds of pages I didn't get to all of them, where the ditches are going. So Jenny, could you help answer some of those, maybe alleviate some concerns?
Sure, I'd be happy to. First one to just draw to the commissioner's attention that we have a contracted planner, Brandon Green from Young Associates here tonight. So any questions that can development related, and of course, Justin, our public director as well, to address some of the water things. I would probably let them take a little bit of this. Trying to see what water issues.
Maybe, please. Thank you.
So we appreciate
Access to water during summer. This is
Seems to be a concern for everybody. My name is Brandon Green, like Jenny said, I work with Jones and Associates and help in planning and zoning efforts. I took notes of all the questions and concerns, and it sounds like maybe, like you said, the biggest one is the ditches. Just keep in mind, right now at this point, we're looking at a layout of the subdivision. We understand that all has to be looked at, and that will be looked at. It's not going to be ignored. We will make sure that the ditches and water rights and people's ability to get water will remain. That won't be unchanged. Now ditches may be relocated, but again, you've got to work with the developer and figure out a location where those can be placed, where people can access them, where they can be properly maintained. I don't know who owns that ditch. Right, do we know who owns that ditch? Other than people that pull water out of it, so. So obviously, it's not owned by the city, but we have to make sure that that water is provided to those residents that have those water rights. That's never been the thought of getting rid of the ditch. It's always been known that we would take care of that. We just don't right now have an exact location because we aren't quite that far along in the laying out of infrastructure and utilities, water lines, sewer lines, secondary, well, ditch. all of that. So that we realize has to be addressed. The same thing would be said about the entrance in there off of Larsen Lane. There will have to be some work to accommodate the road and make the road safe. Safe for the residents, safe for those that are walking, safe for those that are driving. We realize that, and the developer is willing and ready to provide whatever means necessary to provide that safety. As far as the lots and the lot sizes go, this is a battle that every city and along the Wasatch Front is having right now. We all love large lots, but we can't all afford those large lots. And so we're providing lots that meet the criteria for, I don't even know if it's affordability, it's just reality. People don't want the big lots. And so we've reviewed this with Glade as a staff. And we feel very comfortable with the direction that he's going with the development. I would, yeah, I don't know if you've got any great questions. No.
What's the process to take a ditch and pipe it middle of irrigation season? How does that work out with the users? Justin, do you want to comment on that? Just so we're.
Yes, so we would definitely work with the developer and his team, that we would not be changing ditch or piping of a ditch during irrigation season. Essentially, irrigation season kind of April 15th to October 1st. So it would either have to be prior to April 15th and fully completed, or done after. And they can do that, you know, throughout however they decide to move forward with their infrastructure and where all the engineering falls in. Again, open ditches are very tough on the city because we have no jurisdiction. We've dealt a lot with Western irrigation. Problem is, in open public meetings from Western irrigation, we've been fully told that they don't have, as the city does, a written standard. So we have to actually do the whole engineering and then submit it to one of their board members. And then their board member can kind of say, well, maybe we need to tweak this, or tweak that. But, and there's, every ditch is technically supposed to have a ditch master on that. And we as the city, when we get to that phase of engineering, would like to meet with the Western Board and the ditch master of that ditch to make sure that everybody's aware of how now the ditch now runs and flows. So yes, there are things, the city has very high standards, and we can, they're on our website, they're on Jones and Associates website, as our public works standards. And we usually size the piping of the ditch off of the sizing of the head gate at the canal. So if your head gate is only 15 inches at the canal, there's no reason to put a 24-inch pipe in. You can't get more than 15-inch pipe of water because that's what comes through. So we do engineering on that, verify, double check, make sure that all that is definitely important. This property does have water rights. They will need to use those water rights to do a pressurized irrigation system. However that turns out, that will be engineered properly and correctly. I know, you know, there's a chance that possibly if we do it right, we can offer other residents on Larsen Lane to then annex into the 4-mile special service district, but that will be at their choice and their discretion, knowing they will have to turn over those water shares, but then they will have pressurized irrigation. So.
And the development tonight isn't at the stage of.
No, we're just, this is illustrative development for the later. Very, very new.
So if we go forward tonight, we'd be coming back to all of that before it actually gets built.
So this is an approval of the development plan, the MDA, the master development. And the code doesn't require that all completed at the beginning. All of this development meet our subdivision code as well.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure what stage we're at. It seems like you've got concerns that come later. So even moving forward, so those concerns, because we'll get those addressed.
Absolutely. They would all be addressed during the subdivision.
Sure. That's just a,
And it sounds like too, because there's been questions raised and through the email and stuff from Dre, obviously through the subdivision portion, it's gonna be a variant line most likely, right?
Yes, I would.
Yes.
So the city doesn't have, the residents don't have to maintain that ditch or risk having their homes flooded with water. So yes.
Okay. Great, thank you. I think that should have gone to one. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Is it possible for me to add a comment or two about
yes,
this?
please.
No.
So you get an option. Share one.
I'll just echo what's been said.
Wait, would you just introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, Glade McCombs, and I'm represent the interest of the developer. So as was mentioned by Brandon and Justin, this is just a conceptual plan. It has been surveyed, so it is a surveyed plan, but it is a conceptual plan. None of the engineering has been done. And Mr. Montgomery came up to me after the last planning commission meeting that we were at and expressed these concerns. I've got them drawn right here on my drawing. We're taking those into account. One of the things that I think will be helpful for everybody to know is we will definitely maintain the ditches that go across the property, but they will be buried. So it'll be conduit buried, and we'll work through that with our engineer and make sure that that is maintained. One of the things that wasn't mentioned, and they probably didn't know this, is we're also phasing this, we've drawn phases in this drawing. Our master development agreement indicates 2 different phases. The first phase is the main road that comes off of Larsen Lane and goes up to the hammerhead and dead ends there. So that would be the first part of the development that is done. Our intention in doing that was the ditch that comes across the east part of the property, Mr. Montgomery indicated to me, that ditch, we can address that before the second phase goes in. And so we certainly wouldn't want our timing to be such that that has to be done during the summer when irrigation season is in place. So that was one of the reasons for phasing it the way that we did, is to take that into account. The other thing that was mentioned is to table this, until the next planning commission meeting and all of these things are addressed. But really, that's not appropriate, because all we're asking for is approval of cluster development and master development agreement. We're not asking for subdivision approval at this point. And we will have engineering done that will address all of these concerns. And we will work with the planning staff to make sure that all of those concerns are addressed accordingly.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Before you sit down.
Yes.
So one lot on the corner, is that going to face the new road, or is that going to be a new house on Larsen Lane? I guess the 3 houses on one.
Yeah, we have, and that addresses a couple of concerns. We will have to address that elevation change from Larsen Lane down to the property, so that will be addressed. And we'll work that out with the engineers, which will be accessed, particularly 29 and lot 1, whether those will need to be accessed off of Larsen Lane, or whether they will more appropriately be accessed off of the new road extending from Wallen Way. I don't know the answer to that at this point, but we'll work with the engineers and make sure that whatever access is given to those lots will be appropriate and best served, whether it's off of Larsen Lane or off of that Wallen Way extension.
So.
Exactly. But the elevations are taken into account. One other thing that was noted in Mr. Montgomery's comments from the last planning commission meeting, and also in his comments that he sent to the planning staff before ahead of this meeting. He was concerned about some seepage coming off of Larsen Lane, and that was there's quite a bit of seepage. I went over there before the meeting. As you know, we've been getting quite a bit of moisture lately. I walked across that whole section coming off of Larsen Lane where it tapers down. I wore these shoes. There's no mud on them at all. There was no soppy ground. It was not wet at the time that I walked across it. But if there are concerns with that, one of the next things that we will do, pending approval of this, is we will go ahead and engage our geotech engineers. They will do a full inspection of the site, and they will take into account both visually and by digging pits, they will take into account what groundwater is present and where groundwater is present, and that will be taken into account in the engineering. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to kind of DA in section 2.2, it was mistakenly represented that there will be a 40
Yes.
units. This is only 30. Yeah, it was.
And
We've been working
came from
two different systems, so that will be updated
okay.
and corrected before it's presented to council.
Do we need to include that in our motion?
You can if you'd like.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. There were some things that could be adjusted in there. Most of what I saw was minor. I'm not going into all the HOA contract and say you should change that, but I did read it.
Fun reading, right?
It was repetitive with two, tiny mistakes. So, for a motion, do you guys think we should send this on? Do you think we should table it?
It's just the MBA.
Yeah, and also plenty of time through the process that brings us to get
It's
very stressed.
Yes, because we want to make sure we protect the citizens' rights.
Yeah.
Everything, so,
I think we can send this on to
and that will enable them to move forward.
recommendation of citizens.
Yes.
We can't address those issues until they get to the next steps.
Bill, you do this? You think, right? Okay.
Say the motion.
I that, that we recommend ordinance 551, to move forward with that, the ordinance adopting the cluster development plan for property located at approximately 265 Larsen Lane. And that we include the information from, the staff memo dated March 5th, and our discussion and any other information that has been printed or discussed. And I also include there that we update the MDA to include to change it from 40 in that one section of 2.2 to 30 lots.
So the motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Motion passes. And it's once. Alright, that moves us to item number 5, which is discussion action to recommend approval of ordinance 552, an ordinance amending the official zoning map for certain parcels located approximately 125 west, 1100 north, based on the application filed with the city. Jenny, you want to review the staff on this one, please?
Sure. Thank you. Chair, we'll just do a brief overview of the staff report for this. I'll just read the background summary too. So on February 10th of 2023, so a little over a year ago, an application was received for a rezone property located at approximately 125 west, 1100 north, from residential RE15 to mixed use residential in UR for Weaver County parcel 11-033-0087. A public hearing to receive public comments was held a year ago on March 8th. twenty twenty-three by this body. And the mixed use subcommittee met approximately 5 times, maybe plus or minus a couple times over the last year to negotiate a master development that's being presented tonight with the accompanying exhibits. So the proposed subzone is mixed use residential, so the standards that we are following for that subzone is under Title 11, Chapter 11 of the Harrisville Municipal Code. With the MUR subzone, the area identified on our general plan map does identify this property as being eligible for mixed use residential. The exhibit B1 identifies the project, the proposed lot areas, the roadways, and the proposed residential uses and the surrounding areas. The landscaping and open space are identified in exhibit B4.
I do.
And I'm happy to go with you if you'd like to review them.
So everyone can see it. I printed out my copy. It would be nice for everyone. Also to have the B3, which is the overview of the plan as well. Yeah, there are a lot of fun pages in this and a lot. So
Try not to make the future online, this is, I'm really down to.
Thank you for being gentle.
Yeah. And yeah,
You need to go back up, Jim.
to the. You want the actual exhibits or the staff memo?
I want the actual exhibits.
So which one first?
B3 to see the first part, and then you've got B4 that mentions.
So B3 is
So just to show what this is, and since it's been in here.
so this is 11,
Yep.
and this is the entrance that was actually stubbed at the time that we completed 11. And that would be the entrance into this new development.
And then the blue line goes straight up as well.
This is Wallen Lake, connect here on the east side where there is currently a turnaround, temporary turnaround.
Yep.
And then it will stub to the south and it will stub to the west.
Thank you. And then B4 is the one you were reading about, the landscape, which is the next page of the landscape.
So this is the landscape, and I should say this is just a landscaping example that we've included for the MDA. This is their typical landscape plan, similar to what we've adopted in the others. If it is an exact. It's okay as long as they stay within the plans that have been adopted in the MDA.
Perfect. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries, we want to
To see where we at. This question, I'll just leave there.
So all their applicable fees have been paid to date, and the residential lot, the proposed development, then I'll go to the plan, so we can have something to look at while we discuss it. So this is the master development plan. So the plan includes residential lots, 2 types of residential lots. These are single family homes on the east side, and there are townhomes on the west side. It includes a clubhouse and pickleball courts here. For the amenities. The project notes, it's a total of 6.6715 acres, a total of 40 units on this development. 23 of those will be patio homes with 17 townhome units. And it shows an open space of 2.08 acres. I think that's a brief overview. They did include in their exhibits. There is a portion of the project at the very north side that is designated in the FEMA floodplain. The developer will be working through a LOMAR application and that process with FEMA. And it is included in the MDA that units are building of residences, dwelling units. in that space. Exhibits G1 through G3 show you, just like you have in previous MDAs, a typical product. Color schemes may be slightly different. Housing types might be slightly, but this is a general concept idea for just, not just the single family homes, excuse me, but also the townhome clubs. So they've indicated that they have their homeowners association documents and their CC numbers. All of the whole homes provisions are included. And so after vetting this through, I forgot, excuse me, Chair, I forgot to mention that you sat on our committee for the negotiations with, along with Councilmember Loveland, who stayed with us until his term expired in December, and then Councilmember Weiss joined us at this recent meeting to finalize this application. Happy, again, we have staff here answering questions or anything else you may need some response.
So you guys will get an opportunity to review this one, go along with it. So there are townhomes on the west side that borders the school and the properties to the west.
So that's the only side with the townhomes on the west side, the rest of them are single family.
Attached homes. Yeah, and there's a clubhouse, I mean, there's courts on the north side. You know, the last committee meeting, we had a discussion of what the courts would be open to the public. And I had thought them to be kind of council basis against that. I think it'd be a good community amenity to add to the park. So I don't, anyway, other than that, there's, you know, because there's 40 houses, we've spent a lot of time getting the roof. And all of that. But the one other community amenity that hasn't been mentioned today is that wall and way will that stub it to bring the charter school. We may not have that vertical document. So it's that gives them the right to get school traffic up parking on the side of the intersection. It's not on the side. Yeah, that's what the benefit connected to that, so you can access to the ministry. Yeah. Something we, something really tiny little, it's very interesting. So, do you have anything else to add, or do you want to give us more insight today on this one?
No, I mean, we've spent a lot of time with, working with the city planning staff in their committee meeting to work through this. We've addressed a lot of concerns along the way. We've taken all of those concerns into account in this latest revision. We have already completed, I will add to what Jenny said earlier, we have completed our geotech survey on this site. We have also done our phase 1 environmental survey. And we have also completed a survey and we've done our engineering for phase 1. The phase 1 is indicated in this blue area. So that would be phase 1 of the project. And all of the engineering has been done on that phase 1. And so we've really worked hard to make sure that it comes together the way that we wanted. One of the recommendations that I think was very, well founded in our committee meeting is originally on this drawing, we had some townhome units. This was a townhome unit right here. And the city planning staff recommended that we move all of those to the west so that it lessened the density impact on the houses that are already there on the east side. And so we made adjustments for that. We have already contacted engineers regarding the floodplain. It's a very minor floodplain across the front of that, but we've already contacted them and gotten proposals from them. We haven't engaged them to go to that process yet, but that will be taken into account and taken care of as well. There's also a couple of couple of challenging things with this development is we have a couple of ditches, and just like the Larsen Lane, we have a couple of ditches. We seem to gravitate towards property with ditches. And so we do have a couple of ditches that come across here. There's one that starts here at Wallen Way, and it kind of runs diagonally across the property. There is another ditch right along the southern edge of the property. And then, of course, we've got the floodplain going across the front of the property. Sorry, Jenny, I hit that screen. And so we're taking all of those into account. Those have already been, the ones, phase one engineering will correct, will bury most of those ditches. The other thing that I will mention is that at some point, there was a relocation of a ditch on the property. In fact, the ditch that goes across the front of the property was the site of the slight floodplain. That has been at some point redirected without permits from the state. And so we'll have to take that into account and make corrections for that as well. So I think that this will be a nice little add to the community. And I think it's well suited for this site, I believe. And again, I think we've worked, really diligently with the city to try to make sure that we've addressed all the concerns. The only thing that I will mention is the parking lot that we have drawn in this drawing was anticipating that it might be public pickleball courts, and so we made it a little bigger. If we change it to private, we may just reduce the size of the parking lot and change that to green space or open space. But I think that would be the only minor adjustment that we would make with this. Other than that, I think this is pretty cast in concrete as far as, unless some changes are recommended.
Thank you. Thank you for years. Thank you. And I get things that I've spent the last year thinking about seeing various renditions of this and stuff. It is quite
Yes, the city goes to, rightfully so, to make sure that our residents are protected and that we put in this. And that's going to beautify the city, so that's great. I'm ready.
All right. To approve ordinance 552, ordinance amending the official map for certain parcels located approximately 1.5 west of North. Yeah. So to include the staff memo dated March 5th, 2024.
I need a second.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was all. Thank you. That brings us to number 6, which is public comments. This is when we open it up to anyone who wants to take 3 minutes and talk about whatever you want. So anyone, you want them to come up and share.
Do I need to reintroduce myself or no?
Yeah, state your name.
Okay, that's 2.5 Larsen Lane. 2 things I just want to make mention of when you talked about the water coming off Larsen Lane. It's behind the house, right in the ditch. It's right behind the house. So right when you walk on Larsen Lane, it's great. It's when it gets down to the bottom. I mean, there's ducks and frogs and there's standing water of a couple feet. So just that's where the ditch is that we're concerned about, to make sure it keeps flowing. And then, secondly, is just a concern too, when it comes to the piping, will we have access to it if pipes break in the future, things like that? Because that's great for right now, temporary, but we're here like longers and we want to make sure that we have access to it or whatever needs to be done to fix it or get to our water treatment station. Those are the only concerns I had.
Thank you. Well, close public comments. Thank you all for sharing. All right, that brings us to agenda item number 7, which is commission staff follow-up. Jenny, do you have a follow-up for us?
So I don't yet, how about that? We ended the legislative session in mass confusion in my mind of what. We had many meetings throughout the process and we'll find out in our city managers, yes, in a couple of weeks. So I'll report back. Probably not even your April meeting, but more like your May meeting of any anticipated things. But some of the things we anticipated were going to be approved, some funding options to help with the housing issues. And we were able to curb some of the scary legislation that's mandating 8 units per acre throughout cities. So we're hoping that doesn't resurface next legislative session, but we see a lot of repeat legislation coming up. But that one, I think not even gain traction this year, so it's hopeful. Still moving along, trying to meet our strategies and but I'll have one later. First step.
Anything regarding Bell, any updates?
Yeah, a little small update on that. We do know that the Lone Golf Course changed ownership. We've met with the middle owner, we'll call it for now, on the project, and they are under a pretty tight timeline with the UDOT resurfacing of Highway 89. So they're as anxious as the city to get any improvements completed. There's quite a large off-site sewer line that's to be run on that project. So we should see, but their first phase is I'm excited to have them start doing the infrastructure changes there. This construction season is what they've promised us.
You got resurface here, but highway, we got to put in sewer, twice the size. So
89, great.
so these sewer pipes underneath it is 20 years old or something, or maybe even older than 100 years. So the service people in the golf, that's.
That's great.
Glad we don't have to change our strategies, but yet with all the legislative things to maintain the city going. Any other questions for staff? Brings us to agenda item number 8, which is again, I get a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry.
All in favor? Aye.